Close but far removed from the peaceful transfer of power, anti-Trump protests turned violent today. More than 200 people were arrested. 6 police officers were wounded. Here's Errol Barnett.
Vandalism aimed at downtown businesses prompted riot police to descend on these unruly protesters. One demonstrator threw a flashbang grenade back at police. It exploded in an officer's face, leaving him with minor...
Political violence didn't start with Trump, and it didn't start with the Capitol Hill attack. It didn't start with the coup attempt at the Capitol. The Capitol attack was horrendous, horrific, despicable, and Trump did fail in both condemning the attack harsh enough and quickly enough. Biden did not denounce Antifa when he had the opportunity in the election debate. Trump didn't denounce Proud Boys and white supremacists, and this is exactly the problem. Biden was asked about Antifa, and he, instead of denouncing Antifa, condemning Antifa, he said Antifa is not an organization, Antifa is an idea. The reality is Antifa has been systematically organizing very violent attacks on political opponents, and this is a huge problem. Also, Trump was not the first one to not acknowledge and to not accept the result of an election in the US. Hillary Clinton gave an interview in 2019 where she still didn't acknowledge and accept the election result of 2016, and also she called President Trump an illegitimate.
Cars and smashed windows. A small group of protesters dressed in black, their faces covered, armed with hammers and bricks. Facing off with thousands of officers on site, many in riot gear, confronting them with flashbang grenades and pepper spray. All of a sudden, the police officers started to spray pepper spray, and they got our audio technician. They're coming. See us running because they're going to throw more flashbangs. The chaotic scene just blocks outside the secure area of the inauguration and parade route.
I personally have anti-establishment slants, but I don't think that this is anything that I want to be about.
Before the swearing-in ceremony even began, protesters tried to block checkpoint entrances. During President Trump's speech, several demonstrators were escorted out of the area.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets: persistent and poisonous inequities and injustice. And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful. Supposed to be polite and peaceful. Supposed to be polite and peaceful. Supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Minneapolis today, with its charred remnants of last night's rioting, the fury evident at every corner. Overnight, demonstrators had rampaged. The violence, the anger, and the flames, at times well out of control, continued until dawn. And throughout, looting was equally rampant. It's all become soberingly familiar in this country.
This is at least legitimizing violence, at least glorifying violence, and also with this sentence, we have the right to fight back. It is also, you can argue that this is also an incitement of violence. Okay. Khamenei is on Twitter. Khamenei is the leader of a dictatorship, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and Khamenei is not suspended. Our stance against Israel is the same stance we have always taken. Israel is a malignant cancerous tumor in the West Asian region that has to be removed and eradicated. It is possible and it will happen. So
I don't care that much about statues.
Shouldn't that be done by a commission or the city council, not a mob in the middle of the night?
People will do what they do. I don't care that much about statues. I don't care that much about statues.
Doing away with children being with their moms. This is, I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be when people realize that this is a policy that they defend. It's a horrible thing.
Following the fourth night of protests in Minneapolis, this is after the George Floyd protests started on the 26th of May 2020.
If you're trying to call for the end of unrest, but you don't believe healthcare is a human right, if you're afraid to say Black Lives Matter, if you're too scared to call out police brutality, then you aren't asking for an end of unrest. You are asking for injustice to continue and for
people. And this is not the first time that AOC has to legitimize the violence going on. And legitimizing violence, political violence, is never okay. And this is exactly the point. Political violence is not okay when you attack the Capitol, and it is not okay when you attack police or loot or riot.
Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I am outraged. Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
So one of the people who have really been a target of Antifa's violence, political violence, has been Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler. Reportedly, he was punched by social justice activists dining at a local cafe. He was surrounded by these people, and he has reportedly also he was punched. This is a video of the incident.
Fuck off! You're gonna be made to feel like the scum you are. Fuck you! Fuck you! Shame on you!
Well, this is another act of political rioting and unrest, and really a threatening way, an uncivilized way of political activism. This is not a democratic minded crowd. This is not a democratic minded movement when you just walk in and take over City Hall and demand the mayor to resign. That resign. This is, of course, not peaceful. This is not a peaceful way of debating with people you are not in agreement with. This is not a peaceful conversation.
Against the appearance of a controversial editor from Breitbart, Milo Yiannopoulos. The clash has escalated. The speech was canceled, and just moments ago, President Trump did weigh in again. ABC's Kana Warworth is on the scene in Berkeley with all the latest. Good morning, Kana.
And George, good morning. It was a terrifying night. Campus police issuing a shelter-in-place order after college Republicans invited Milo Yiannopoulos to speak. Now, behind me, this is a police generator that was knocked over and set on fire when these protests turned into a riot. Overnight mayhem on campus. The University of California, Berkeley erupting in flames as over 1,000 came out to protest an appearance by the self-described right-wing internet troll Milo Yiannopoulos.
We will not tolerate racism or sexism or hate crimes and violence. He's a fascist, and Berkeley did not welcome him.
At least 6 people were injured, including this Trump supporter who was pepper sprayed. The university canceling the speech. Riot police even retreating to the building for safety. You can hear them urging the crowds to leave.
I think we have a right to say that we don't want him here. And,
burning cars.
Knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. And I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should. But Jane, it was like applying for a job and getting 66 million letters of recommendation and losing to a corrupt human tornado. And so I know that he knows that this wasn't on the level. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day. And history will probably sort it all out. So of course he's obsessed with me. And I believe that it's a guilty conscience in so much as he has a conscience.
Oops.